Oh, come on. Where's the chaos? Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to another edition of the Boyd Sunday Sessions. What is happening? Sort of impromptu session, but we're going to mine through the headlines. I've got Rainer on with me. Stand by while I make sure to have his audio patched in here. Say what's up, Rain. Connect. Check 1 2. Can you hear me?
Hey, I don't think you could hear me, James.
Oh, there you are. Yes, got you.
You're
Loud and
breaking up,
clear.
brother.
All right, let me fade out this. Actually, I might just have to shut this up. Bam, 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 bam. All right, so let me turn that down a little bit. All right, we've got Rainer on. We're gonna dig
Hey,
through
yo.
some of the headlines. Can you hear me? You
Can
on
hear?
still?
Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, indeed, sir. All right, so we looks like we are on, and but stand by 1 second. Let me this thing. One of these days, the Boyd will have proper. Everything will be proper.
Did we do sound check for an hour?
Yeah, but things never work exactly the way they're supposed to work.
Right now, James.
I think. Can you hear me okay? Because I think everything's coming through okay on the YouTube feed itself for the live show. Unless you can't hear me now.
No, I just want to start. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so let's talk about what's on your mind.
Well, what's on the headline?
Oh, yes, excuse me, the headlines. So Rain is going to go dig through the
So,
headlines, find some nuggets for us. We're going to talk about what's going on.
necessarily, I'm just on mainstream media, just seeing what kind of stuff they're trying to shove down people's throats
Yes, no
and
doubt.
trying to
Absolutely.
on the A, if you will, that. Yeah. But
Absolutely. So
yeah,
yeah,
woman
what's
24 dies after being hit by a car during a protest. Summer Taylor was one of two women struck by a car that barreled through a crowd on a closed highway in Seattle while protesting against police brutality. The suspect faces 2 counts of vehicular assault. That's on the top of Yahoo right now.
Yeah, I mean
So that
that's an example of I mean there's this really weird ethos. I don't know if it's what word would you use for it? I mean, you've got people who say they believe in the Constitution and all that stuff, and then here you in the midst of people using a First Amendment right to protest or something like that, you have people who are like running them over in the middle of their First Amendment right to do that. You know what I mean? So just really weird shit going on. I don't really understand that. I think it's because these people at the end of the day are really like I don't know. They have some kind of visceral hate and they're trying to sort of push that, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. And this is a way of enacting that hate is sort of the way I see. What are your thoughts on it?
um, same thing. Something is enraging them to go ahead and barrel through crowds because they could take out more people in a quicker amount of time without
Well,
using
yeah,
a gun.
are they like trying to? You think people are trying to take them out? Like they want to like literally kill these people? Like do you think they see them as enemies? Because there is a lot of rhetoric out there about like how liberals or these different people are enemies or you know what I mean? I mean, there's rhetoric like that. Do you think this is the rhetoric coming into like reality to physical reality, or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So what does that mean? I mean, should what's the answer to that? Like you want to let's say you want to protest and you want to act out, you know, you want to go through you want to exercise your first amendment right. Um what
Hmm.
should the answer be? How do you protect yourself from people who are going to barrel through you, or even and maybe even the police, because there's been
Yeah,
a bunch
of
of
course.
footage of police actually
There's
running over
outside
people.
organizations or forces who are on foot as well, who are amongst the peaceful protesters as well. You know, so you got to. There's a lot of factors because when you go into protesting, you're going out there to put your life on the line. So
Yeah, at the end of the
there,
day, because you don't know, especially now, you don't know what vigilantes will be out there. There's those you saw. I don't know if you saw those people recently. I can't remember their names, like the McKenzies or something. Um, they were out in their front lawn with firearms as protesters were
oh,
walking by. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean?
Right, yeah,
Let me see. Let me see. I'm trying to get this posted out on Facebook a little bit. See if we can get some thoughts. Different folks jumping in. Got. I don't know if that's you monitoring or if we got one person on. Um, what?
I'm not doing any monitoring.
Then we have somebody with us out of the billions of people on this earth. We have one person who is watching live today on YouTube. So welcome. Give us your thoughts. I think that the fact that I mean, it's definitely important that we have a headline talking about the event of somebody running over a protester like that. But I think I don't know. I think we're in a weird space where there's actually people who look at that event and are like, yeah, like that, like they're what, like you know, if your favorite sport, whatever sport you're into, football, basketball, baseball, like when your team scores or wins in and it like boosts, you know, you get that boost. Um, I almost feel like that kind of thing starts happening. You know what I mean? So it just makes me wonder. I mean, there's people that I would look at the comments and I talk to different people about you know from different from a more conservative perspective, and they sort of fantasize about running over protesters. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm not surprised that it's happening. My question and it becomes a difficult question is what is the answer? Is the answer? I mean, is it basically the heckler's veto that's basically this notion that the wildest, craziest person gets to set the stage for what is acceptable talk or not, kind of thing, or what are the parameters of the discussion? You know what I mean? So, like for instance, if Black Lives Matter protests are, even if they block the highway or something like that, you know, like let's say Second Amendment people start blocking the highway, are they going to
Hmm.
drive through those Second Amendment people the same way, or are they going to respect them for some reason out of nowhere? If mask offers those people, let's open the economy, who cares, people. If those people decided to, you know, block the highway, would they still drive through them? You know what I mean? I mean, those people, it's like a lot of those same people that would drive through protesters that are BLM protesters, they support armed protesters storming government buildings. You see what I mean? So there's like a weird, I don't know if you want to call it hypocrisy or what do you want to call it, but there's something definitely weird going on. You know what I mean?
Yes, there is. Everybody just know that if you go out on the bridges and the freeways, that a car coming to barrel over you is a very high possibility.
Right. I mean, so should that be a deterrent to that
No,
type of action,
not a
or
deterrent.
do you think
Not a
what if protesters started coming to protest armed now, and someone goes and barrels through, and then they get, blap blap
Well,
blap
then there
starts
you
happening.
go.
You know what I mean?
There we
Maybe, I don't
go.
know. Is that the answer? Is that a possible answer?
You know what?
Is that an inevitability possibly?
Yes,
Especially
I
in
was
the
just
land
gonna
of the
say,
Second Amendment,
I
is
think I
this
think
inevitability?
you were saying earlier, are the liberals or the leftists or whoever's protesting going to just if the shoe was on the other foot or the roles were reversed, would they be barreling over uh Second Amendment rights activists, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
other and history shows that they would not fight fire with fire. They would try to approach it in a peaceful, diplomatic manner, but maybe it's time to actually get to it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not I'm not
no. Go
condoning
ahead.
violence. I'm just saying.
Well, and I just wonder how far it would go anyway. Especially again, we talk about supposedly a country that has a culture of individual liberty, fighting against a tyrannical government, um, all that stuff. Is it an inevitability that in that culture, especially with the Second Amendment, that people will eventually become start protecting themselves via arms against the government? And lately, Clay County, which is a neighboring county to Duval County, where I live in Jacksonville, um, is the sheriff said that he's going to deputize and basically like build a posse from people who just have that have guns. You know what I mean? That he will commandeer basically these people, not commandeer them, but like rustle up a posse of people, the armed people in Clay County to fight protesters, for instance. So these people who will run over First Amendment people exercising the First Amendment under the Constitution are you know what I mean? They are getting rustled up to use their Second Amendment to squash people with their first, from their First Amendment.
All amendments are not equal.
You know what I mean? So it's a really strange situation. So, but you also see there is a, I don't know if the mainstream media is talking about this much, but there is a sort of a unification of, I don't know if you've heard of the Boogaloo movement. Have you heard of that before? That whole Boogaloo thing.
No, I have not.
It's basically these I don't want to say white supremacists, but it's basically, some of them are, but some of them are just heavy constitutionalists, and are they are expecting, they thought that the government, like under Obama or some leftist like Hillary or somebody, maybe Bernie or some future AOC or whoever, is going to, some leftist president is going to take our guns, right? And that they would have to basically go through the boogaloo, which is how to overthrow the tyrannical government. And what's happening is in these in the aftermath of some of the protests, you're seeing these boogaloo people who are coming with their arms, with guns and whatever, to protect property from looters, etc. But they're also seeing armed black BLM folks who are also doing the same thing, like the John Brown Gun Club and some other people other organizations that are more leftist, maybe the Socialist Rifle Association and some of these people, maybe, I don't know if they have specifically people, but I know John Brown Gun Club does. And these are leftist organizations, and they are walking hand in hand with these mostly white, quote unquote, boogaloo constitutionalists. You see what I mean? Under the Second Amendment, and those constitutionalists are now recognizing that I think the big change is now they finally recognize that black people are their brothers and sisters under the law, in which they have been a sleeping dragon, I guess you could say. That I've been wondering, like, where are they? You know, all during Fourth Amendment, infractions with stop and frisk and all that, they've been silent. You know, because and all this whole time they've been pretty much silent. You know, until George Floyd comes and is murdered by agents of the state in front of the whole world to see in a very graphic manner. Now suddenly they're like, oh shit, this what if this is our brother under the law, under Constitution as an American, then how can we sit silent? There are some people who see that, and and it really is mask off at this point that some of these quote unquote constitutionalists, a lot of which are right wing conservatives, are really not who they say they are. They're really actually racist, and they are hiding behind the Constitution and some level of nationalism and a pretend LARPing of being a Minuteman or something. I don't know, revolutionary something or other, to protect the Constitution. When in fact they only will do that if you're white. You know, that I don't know if you remember when that someone Bundy, I can't remember what his name, he wanted to graze his cattle, and then the federal government said no, or some crap, and then they took over a federal building and some stupid shit. You know what I mean? And you had all these like boogaloo people and constitutionalist people like kind
Ivan
of going
Bundy,
along. Clive and
that
Bundy,
stand up
exactly
in
that.
1990. Oh no, 2015. Was that
Bingo,
it?
that exact thing.
Was
Yes.
it 96? I can't really tell. Was it
Yeah.
in the
So
90s or was it?
I don't remember. Whenever that was, it was a while back, 10 years ago or something like that.
Okay, yeah, 2014 it says or something.
Bingo. All right, there you go.
Stop in Bundy's Nevada ranch that began when the BLM seized Bundy's cattle.
And in this case, BLM is Bureau of Land Management, not Black Lives
Oh,
Matter.
wow. Okay, that's crazy.
Yes. So anyway, that sparked off this big, within that boogaloo-ish movement, those circles he had a lot of right-wing conservative supporters sort of coming out of the woodwork to help him take his stand. Meanwhile, in New York, stop and frisk was violating Fourth Amendment rights of black people left and right, and they were silent. But this guy wants to graze his cattle, then suddenly they're literally up in arms about it. During this whole time, even through Obama's tenure, they had plenty. They hated Obama. They had plenty to talk about, but they didn't talk about how Obama was cracking down on whistleblowers or disappearing, or the administration, maybe not Obama himself, but the administration was locking up and
Snowden.
practically disappearing people. Right, Snowden. You had that whole revelation, and you had Manning, and you have what's it? The WikiLeaks and all that stuff going on, and there was a lot of hiding of the truth in that time, as per the usual. You know what I mean? But
It seems like on YouTube I'm coming in pretty loud. You could even just turn me down on your side if that's okay.
all right, let me see here. Getting this volume mixed down. Well, thank you for actually monitoring that, because it's tough for me to do that. Let me see here. Go ahead and let me make sure I'm bringing the right one. Here we go. You should be a little bit lower now. But yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot going on. Hopefully, this is the sort of a wake up call to bring people together. You know what I mean? In general, because there's a lot of racial rhetoric going on. What are your thoughts on the modern racial rhetoric? People are trying to say that things are worse now than before, but I'm like, there's no segregation right now, like literal segregation. People don't use the N word in like normal settings, like even in the 70s, people were calling, white people were calling black people Negroes. and stuff like that. And you might even hear the N word in full hard R fashion, um, up until possibly through the 80s. And now it's like so taboo to even look like you're racist. So, though there is still systemic racism, I mean, in 2006, FBI uh, made a report saying that white supremacists are infiltrating law enforcement, and that was suppressed by our own government to let anybody know that white supremacists are infiltrating law enforcement. So there's definitely racism around, but it's definitely in the philosophy and culture of our nation right now. Racism is definitely down as a norm, I believe. What are your thoughts?
I don't know that. It's not necessarily racism back in the day, like round them up and lynch them. That's not the kind of racism we're dealing with today. Today, racism is very much alive, um, and it's been fueled by especially the Trump administration right now. That I know for sure. Um,
What do
and
you think? There's some Trump people who
how
will,
to come together and
well, they'll claim that well, he